All right, here we go. Day 14 of 365 days of rebuilding my life with sobriety. All right, now what I want to talk about today is, finding your higher power in sobriety. For me, what that means for me is, something recently that, getting back in touch with God. For a long time, I'm not gonna say I didn't believe in God, but I didn't believe in Jesus. And I had my own thoughts about it. And I just, at one point in time, I didn't believe Jesus was a real person. But, coming into recovery, being this new person that I'm loving and trusting again, I'm starting to regain faith. I started to pray again. And with the help of my dad, he gave me a prayer that told me to ask Lord, let Lord know that I'm unsure of what's out there and to guide me on the right path, to show me to have faith again. And part of my recovery is my faith that's came in. I'm growing so much. I'm praying every night. Sometimes I pray during the day, and prayer works. I used to be the first one to say, ain't nobody gonna come down and save you but yourself, because that's what I truly believe. Because in my life, I've had a lot of bad stuff happen to me. I've experienced a lot of bad stuff. I've done a lot of bad, and nobody ain't never been there for me but me. So I actually elevated myself to be my higher power. But again, coming out of addiction and going into this recovery that I'm going into, I've learned to have faith again. And I talked to my dad about this a lot. I was raised Catholic. I was Christian for a while, and I turned against God for a matter of years. 5+ years I didn't believe in Jesus, and I didn't believe in a power that's greater than myself, which I'm no longer like that. I do believe in God. My dad tells me, he says, son, because I got so many questions about the Bible, about religion, about stuff that don't make sense. And my dad says, son, if it works, why question it? If it works, why doubt it? And I look at people around me every day, and I see how happy they are. Christians, how they're happy. People, they're happy. They're successful. They got their family. Their kids are happy. And that's something that I want. I want to be successful. I want to be happy. I want to be there for my kids and grow on this journey that I'm going on. And I can say I've gotten my faith back. And that's just something I want to touch on today. I appreciate everybody for following and staying through, sticking through and watching my journey. Stay tuned for day 15 tomorrow. You guys have a blessed day.